Causes of Life is based in the reaction to the public health language of the leading causes of death to frame choices. I started working on the book, Leading Causes of Life, and asked Larry Prey to help me write it. The very, very first sentence of the book was Larry's, and that is the extraordinary sentence, life has a language. So what's the language for? Paul Orienti, some years after that, told a group of LCL fellows that you really don't need leading causes of life language unless life is complex. It turns out life is complex. This is what teased Jonas Salk to also flip the most basic language of pandemic and epidemic to ask the question, what if in human communities health could spread like an epidemic? Life is not a problem, it's only a possibility. This is where Doug and Jim have been so helpful, along with others, I'm thinking of Jerry, help us find the philosophical guidance that this radical ambiguity we're in now is actually old news. We know how to be here. We just have to pause and reflect on those who have been here thinking deeply about it before us. The leading causes of life language is less the answer than the right question. When I speak with this about clergy or public health people, I say, you don't have to even remember 5 things, but when the committee you happen to be sitting on is facing what seems like an incomparable problem, simply ask the right question. Is there any life here to work with? There's always life here to work with. We just have to learn how to talk about it. Life does find a way among the places, people, and communities that we love. That's what the language is for. I'm going to stop there, hand it over to Jim.
What I want to do is share a couple of images. The 5 causes of life, agency, coherence, hope, connection, and intergenerativity, the last one we also call blessing, will be misunderstood if 2 things are not made clear. The first is it's not a tool set, and that's the way most people prefer to use it. It's more like a canopy, as Paul drew it then. They aren't a collection of static parts that you can just weld together like a little machine. They're actually angles of view on an organic whole, and through that whole it's life that flows and the sand blows. But the focus is human life. It's about how humans are present in the world, about in fact, more precisely, an extraordinary set of capacities that mark us as being and becoming human in the first place. And if we forget that, we might as well forget the framework. The first fundamental capacity I want to refer to is agency. It's crucial to grasp what this means. I mean by it our creative freedom, as Doug and I have written a book trying to describe this. It's our causal capacity to change nature and ourselves in ways that nature couldn't do on its own. Why causal? Because it has profound effects in the world and on us. And even though it's an internal capacity that you can't empirically measure, it's extraordinary in its impact. This is a good way for me. I love using this example. It's a symphony orchestra. It happens to be the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, playing Beethoven's 9th Symphony, its choral symphony, and the sound it produces is awe-inspiring. What one needs to create that sound is itself extraordinary, though. It's not just the skills of the musicians and the conductor and the people playing in exquisite harmony, but it's the instruments that have been built by someone, craftspeople. It's the precise wood that was harvested and honed for that. It's the strings someone spun. It's the paper someone invented, the notes written on it, the ink someone made. It's a massive collaborative accomplishment spanning literally hundreds of years and probably as many people, well beyond the orchestra. All of that is possible because we are able to add to nature something that's not in it. Symbols, symbolic systems like languages and mathematics, which enable us to imagine what's possible and bring it into being. And the orchestra demonstrates that too. That's how it's possible to know what to play when and to produce this extraordinary sound. We all know too well that we are highly capable of using our creative freedom to destroy as much as we can constructively use it. The freedom itself, the creative freedom, is good. What we intend with it is ambiguous. We have to choose which it is to be. So in that sense, we can choose life or death. It's not as if life is divorced from the realities of death. This picture is a COVID-19 picture in Johannesburg, near Johannesburg in South Africa, just from a couple of days ago. So the leading causes of life is in the midst of this. It's the ironies of this social distancing are not absent from it. It's not happy talk. Like all potent metaphors, it's meant to break open new meaning and action in order to be human, become human, and to make sure that others have that capacity too. We are capable of being of producing as great evil as we are good. That's obvious. But we are also capable of great good, and in that I want to add the last cause lies hope. So let me turn finally to the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra again. The photo you saw before is cropped from this one. It's actually the performance of the Ninth Symphony in front of the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin on the day, 30 years later, that the wall in Berlin came down. There are others trying to build walls again, whether they are metaphorical walls or real walls. They are what damage and disrupt and destroy our lives. The symphony ends with Schiller's Ode to Joy, which is meant to be something the world takes to heart. It's an anthem for humanity itself, as Beethoven meant it. It's something that the analyst again calls a gigantic, irrefutable musical power as a wellspring of endless renewal and possibility. So to end, humans built the Berlin Wall and many other walls. Humans, not least those that began the Monday marches out of the Nikolai Church in Leipzig, helped tear down that wall. This is an example of agency, coherence, connection, intergenerativity, and hope all in one.